Let's go. Okay. But to members of Exploring the Continent of Africa, we have a very engaging discussion taking place. I hope that you will take it upon yourself to click on the Zoom link that's been provided and come into the room. I want to welcome Mr. Green, who just got in, and Stacy Scott Masaki in Tanzania. Guys, please fit in where you can. This is an open discussion about slavery. Did Africans sell Native Africans into slavery, and present day status? Is slavery still an existing form of human existence on the continent? So, Mr. Ross, you have your hand up, sir. Please.
Oh, I don't mean to. I don't know what is even up. I don't know how this thing works.
Okay. Okay.
I see it up there. I'm wondering, is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of our members, Lena, I'm hoping that she will join. I don't know what her status is. She takes the position that Africans never sold slaves, Africans into slavery. The Europeans is trying to come back and rewrite history the way that they want it to be. I'm not opposing her position. I think that we need to have an open discussion to hear how she validates her position. And I've sent her a memo requesting that she join the meeting. I think that she will. She lives in Kenya, Nairobi, so hopefully she'll be in a matter of minutes. Okay. But
well, let me just say this. Maybe they didn't. Okay, first of all, she's in Kenya. Okay.
Yeah.
So where has she traveled to? Because Africa is 54 countries on the continent. So where has she traveled to learn information and to get any type of research? Because everything is not going to be documented. Africa is a continent of storytelling.
yes.
Okay, so it's storytelling. So you have to go. People have been told different stories, and some of them align together and some don't. Okay, but one thing for sure, it was some greedy chiefs and kings that engaged first into slavery with their own people. Now, to follow that up, there are X amount of dungeon castles where they were holding people prior to them selling them in Ghana. They have a lot of dungeon cells, prison cells, or whatever you want to call them. Why would Ghana have that many dungeons to hold people as slaves? Okay, you had the Ashanti kings, a tribe who became a very powerful tribe with money and gold. They will go into the villages and take the smaller villages as prisoners. And then they will store them. That became very expensive for them to feed them and take care of them. So they started selling them. So whoever says that that's not true, well, then they just didn't get, I'm gonna just say this, giving them the benefit of the doubt. They haven't explored that part of the continent yet to learn as to what actually transpired and happened. Because the people that are in New Orleans, I'm in New Orleans, and we are the descendants of West Africa. So if slave wasn't sold into Africa, excuse me, if people wasn't sold into slavery, how did the descendants from West Africa get to New Orleans? How did they get to the UK? How did they get to the Caribbeans? How did they get to Spain, Italy? How did they get there if they were never sold?
Gotcha.
Ask Ivan Van Sertima.
Yeah. Listen, I want to recognize two hands. This first one is Mr. Green. and secondhand is Stacy Scott Masaki. But before we do that, I would love for Lena to be on because you asked about her travel. She is an affluent African. She's been around the world. And so I think she could speak very well for herself, but she's not in. So I hope that she joins us.
Hello, can you
Hope
hear
the
me?
screen, if you will join in the discussion, sir, and then
Stacy. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So the people of Earth, so America and the Caribs, uh, they are in the area of West Africa. But the thing is, in Africa, you have many different nations and tribes that is left out of this discussion. There was one special people that fled from Rome. They were known as the Portuguese Black Jews, and this is all in history. They fled 70 AD into Europe. They became under the rule, well, they fled to Africa first. Their customs and their way of life, all the other nations knew that they were different and not, even though they're from Africa and they're Black, but they're different than everybody else. The things that our ancestors did, the customs like keeping a Sabbath and being married to one person, and all those things that are stated in the Bible. So we stood out and we were different. Those Africans that were around that tribe in West Africa, those are the ones who saw us. It wasn't our people. We were under the rule of King John III of Portugal. And this is in the older history books that they keep out of schools to keep us confused, just like we are now. Everybody has a different, point on it. But the thing is, you have to understand in Africa, there are many nations and tribes. We were in West Africa, we were off the Ivory Coast and the Gold Coast. And in fact, there's a city that was named, it was called the Kingdom of Ouida or the Kingdom of Judah. And a man, what was his name? His name was Bowen. He was an expert map maker. He drew the map and he drew these parts of Africa. And that's where we were from. So the thing is, you have to differentiate. There's a nation, there are many nations and tribes within Africa. That tribe that was sold was different than the other Africans. The Africans that were surrounding knew who they were. So yeah, those Africans that were surrounding those specific people, like the lady mentioned, the Ashanti. Ashanti are known Igbo, Hebrew, blah, blah, blah. And you had other tribes also that were Hebrew that were sold. Us being scattered to America and the Jamaicas is just a continued persecution. And if you know what? This book here, Africa, being an accurate description of the regions of Egypt and Barbary and Libya, written by John Ogilvy, who worked under King John III before they conquered Africa and mapped it out for like France and all the other nations to chop it up. This book was written. So this man wrote what was going on, and he said, these Black people that are taken from West Africa are actually Black Hebrews, Israelites. So we have to make a differentiation and understand that there are many nations in there. And in fact, in the Bible, you have the Black people who are Hebrew. They're under Shem. They're Shemitic people. And then you have the Africans. They're Hamites. You gotta make that distinction. Other people are making it. In fact, you know what? Hold on.
I'd like to say, I'd like to say,
the Hebrew, let me finish. The Hebrew heritage of Black Africa, right? Okay, so we have this book. This is written by Stephen S. Jacobs, Europe, a European Jew, right? I'm gonna just read one part real quick. This book is a must read for people of all races and belief systems, for it satisfies the need to dispel the lies which have enveloped the minds of the masses into believing that the white European Jews are the original people of the book and the chosen people of God expressed throughout the Bible. More and more white Jews, especially the older ones, are acknowledging in secret to those of us who already know that the original Jews were black. So we must make that differentiation. We must know history properly, because the thing, all these 400, 500 years have passed. So we have a numeral amount of lies that we have to get around. They keep this stuff out of the school books. You got at least 6 books that I've seen, right, that says that the Portuguese, the people who were sent to America were Portuguese Jews, known as the Black Jews. Those are the original ones, and we actually at one point we were known to the world as the Portuguese Jews. But the lies continually through history has like changed it. Like, oh, they were just in Africa and they were hanging on vines. No, we were kings, queens, doctors. You know, we knew how to build houses, masons, and all that stuff. Mathematicians, scientists. That's why Banneker, out of nowhere, he taught himself. What did he do? He was a surveyor of Washington. He's the one that set up Washington and all the spots in it. It's in our blood. But they've been keeping this history back. And see, the thing is, at this point, they're going to have to America's going to have to deal with this big lie as to the identity of the people who were brought here. Because the thing is, they still got our slave records. And many of the names that were on the slave ships, they were Hebrew names. So I'm going to let everybody else talk. I'm finished.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, let me say this. Stacy Scott Masaki is next. Hold on just a second. I got something in my
Ooh, I'm trying to get this volume up.
All right, Stacy,
Guess I have to go to the
hello to you in Tanzania. Hopefully you're doing okay today. You could share your opinion or your thoughts.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you wonderful, Stacy. It's so nice to hear you.
It's surprise.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for putting this topic out there for a live stream discussion. I'm not going to talk really long because I want everyone to get a chance to actually how we talk to each other rather than just one person talking, and then we don't get a chance to kind of go back and forth with each other. I'd say that for dialogue. But for me, sorry, I was making some notes and my thing went away. We were talking a little bit about, there was some comments about modern slavery. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Hold on just a second. I need to go on.
Maybe mute. Yeah.
I hear you, Stacy. Go on.
Okay. But there were some things about modern day slavery. Did Africans sell Native Africans into slavery? I mean, I think everybody is saying yes, that is definitely true. But then if you think about like now, how you're talking about like nannies and butlers and that sort of thing. But the biggest thing right now is trafficking. I'm in Tanzania and I've been here for a few years. And just knowing, we're in tourism and a few other things, but like there are sex tours that go on here. Like people actually come here because they're looking for, the Mandingo experience or whatever it is. I mean, it's an actual thing, well-known thing. And you think about, families who, they may not have like the means and look at tourism as an opportunity that they kind of sell their children into this kind of giving themselves up for sex so they can have money to feed themselves. So, as far as like that being, even if you hadn't looked at books, the realism of that is here in current day, the current day and time, you know. And as far as like people only being a part of moving outside of the continent because of the Atlantic slave trade, Africans were moving around in boats and things doing trading before this whole slave trade thing came about. So it's not just about that. I think there is so much, you know, as the brother said just before me, that we're missing out on. You know, we're talking about religion and all these different things, and you're looking at, you know, these different eras of time that we as African Americans, just in general, how we're in the regular school system, that we just miss all of those things. So I don't really know the answer to that, because you know, how can we get that information out to more people? But it's just, I don't know.
Stacey, you are always appreciated. And one day we have to do a little bit more broadcasting upon what you do as well. So we have Sarah that just joined our meeting, and Elena, I know you have your hand up. Listen, folks, I decided to do this meeting. If you guys watched last week, comparing and distinguishing Santa Claus between Jesus Christ, this is a series of meeting underneath the thought of ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So what we're talking about right now, we're looking at historical issue of slavery. So, and you guys are obviously noting how history has been suppressed. So people are not free because they do not understand the real history. But my biggest question is, once you become free, what do you do with that freedom? What do you do with that knowledge? But anyways, Elena, your hand is up, please.
Okay, hi. Okay, so one, the first color that y'all made is black. That's the first skin color. Beautiful, midnight, and then blossom into many different beautiful colors. When you speak about, you know, knowing the truth, well, the sister acknowledged and the brother acknowledged slavery, you know, went on the continent of Africa. This is where life civilization started from. We can go into the Bible, we can dissect the Bible, we can go into many different African authors' books and dissect everything. Freedom starts within your mind and within yourself. If your mind is enslaved, you're going to be enslaved. You have to change that within yourself, and it's not easy, but it can happen. It can change. People say I'm not free. Okay, what prevents you from being free? What prevents you from making life better for yourself in your current position? We can speak all day long about certain things, but our life is a spirit. And if you are not in connection with the right divine link, you're going to have some stagnation in your life. You're going to have some confusion in your life. There's a group of people that Yah, our creator. Now, he says there's going to be many gods out there, many, many, many. There's many nations, many dialects, there's many gods. But we serve one, the creator, that is known as to us as Yahweh. The group of people that Yahweh has called to help are the orphans, which we know in America is being foster care kids, orphans, the poor, the widows, the elderly, and those in destitute situations. As a Black nation of people, we are far from helping that group of people without judgment or manipulating scripture for a reason not to help them. or finding fault in someone before you help them. My father is a retired longshoreman who traveled with Light the steamship company. And he said one day he was on the ship and another Asian man gave another Asian worker that he did not know and wasn't friends with $3,000 because he expressed a need and it was an emergency. So he gave it to him. And my father asked him, well, why would you do that? You don't know him. He said, because in our culture, we are raised to help each other, whether we know them or not. We don't have that type of support system in our nation. We can read all day long, but when it comes to supporting and helping our people, there's a distance, there's a stagnation, there's a conflict. Talk is cheap. It takes money to buy land, to negotiate, to break down mountains, because even if the mountain is sitting up there, you need the tools to break down the mountains, unless somebody gonna donate the tools to you to break down the mountain, unless you're gonna use your bare hands. You gotta go out there and you got to buy the tools or make some sort of negotiation to get the tools to break down the mountain, to break down the building. Now you know your truth, where you're from. What are you gonna do about it? Keep talking and talking and talking and talking? You need action behind what you're doing. Keep shifting the blame. Well, who sold who? Okay, well, who sold who? And we got past that, now what? What you gonna do? You can go
Excuse me.
pull up a million videos and look at them and learn that the origins of Mexican is Black. The origins of Filipino is Black. The origin of Italy is Black. The origin of Chinese is Black. The origin of Koreans is Black. You can go pull up all those videos that people are pulling up and say, oh, yeah, they're Black, they're Black. Yeah, that's the first color that got created, was Black. What you gonna do about it?
So
All
I
this
guess, yeah,
talking and talking and talking and talking, no action behind the talking, no money behind the talking. America is a grinding country for sure. If America didn't teach you anything, it teach you to grind. It teach you to go get your money. That's what America has taught me and many other people, to get your money. But if you don't know how to utilize the resources in America and depending upon a government to give you some money, you're going to be stuck. The government is just a body of people, just like us, human beings, that has managed some sort of way, by whatever way, to get into the positions that they're supposed to be put into. Whether they brought themselves into the position or whether they was just put into the position just because somebody liked them. They're there. You
That's
think God don't see everything that's going on? If he didn't want those people in the position, they would have never made it into the position. You can't
beautiful.
keep saying, oh, the white man did this or the white man did that. We got to be accountable and take action for our own responsibility with our own Black nation of people.
Beautiful. Now, I want to recognize Lucille from Kenya, who just joined the group. And also, Mr. Ross, you have a comment, please, sir. Chime in and unmute yourself. Okay, you unmuted.
Oh, I'm muted. No,
No,
oh, okay. I want to tell everybody, look at my website, blackgrowthanddevelopment.com. I have a 10-year Black economic development plan to move us out this situation. Okay. It just about all the negatives that's there is handled. Okay. Now, Mr. Green, I understand what you're saying. Okay. I've been through it. I understand. I agree. And if there is any disagreement that we are the original, we are the Hebrews, if there's by anybody, whites, whatever, it comes down to look into the Bible. Only thing you have to look at in the Bible is Matthew 3:9. Matthew 3:9, where Jesus's cousin, okay, the preacher is telling the Jews, oh, you think you're special because you're children of Abraham? God could make descendants of Abraham out of these rocks, okay? Who else has been in slavery in a land not theirs for 400 years? The Jews know it's not them. They ask them their history. Were you oppressed in Egypt for 400 years? Well, no, but we were in Cana in Egypt and da 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 da. Okay, we're those people. What does it matter that we're the Hebrews? What does it mean? I talked to a Jewish girl a long time ago. She said, yeah, we're God's chosen people. What does that mean? To be chosen, to be persecuted? That's what she said. I say, what does it mean? Okay. Are we supposed to lift this whole world up because we're God's chosen people?
Beautiful. By the way, we had a gentleman, he's not on today, who commented about how having that classification of God-chosen people is actually a way of creating superiority, if that makes sense to you. And I thought he made a good argument about that. But Mr. Ross, I'm going to ask, if you will, when you can, we need to do a meeting, Zoom meeting for you, with you, so you can go through your entire plan. I love the way that you bring it up, but I want to, if we have to do 2 to 3 meetings, we will do so. Yes, sir, Mr. Green.
Yeah. So, okay, Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Roberts, I'm gonna answer that. You says, first of all, let's get some clarity. The New Testament is not scripture. It is merely letters, right? Letters that they somehow amassed after the Hebrew dispersed.
Yeah, and that's why people get confused when we have people that come on and say that the New Testament is letters or whatever. That's what confuses the mind. These are letters inspired by God through men to be able to write, so that we will be able to have something of a blueprint to follow through. Bible means biblical instruction before leaving life. When you start putting things out like the Bible is this, or the Bible is that, or the Bible this, then that sends a whole bunch of confusion to the weaker vessel of people who are trying to learn where we're from and where we're going and what we're doing.
Go on, Mr. Green.
All right. So first, the reason why I'm saying this, everybody else mentioned Yah. That was one of the first statements. Yah, you're mentioning God. So let's get an understanding. We're all talking about the Most High because you're mentioning it. You didn't say Yahweh, right? So you're mentioning God. Okay. So the gentleman, Mr. You say, why does it matter that, even if we are Hebrews, that we are Hebrews? From Deuteronomy 76, for you are a Kodesh, that means holy people to God your Elohim. God your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession. So if you talking about God, understand, read the Bible and just don't be mentioning God just to be mentioning them. Understand what it says.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm not mentioning God just to be mentioning God, but
excuse me.
If I may cut in for a second, Mr. Tyrone, I believe we have rules.
Yeah. Elena, if you will, Mr. Green is not finished. Go on, Mr. Green. I apologize.
Okay, one more point. All right, we're gonna go to Genesis. And no matter what anybody on here says, how much we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, it's not by your hand that it's gonna come. It's gonna come by the hand of the Most High. He's gonna deliver.
I agree.
He's the one that sent you into slavery for your disobedience. And because we're always stiff-necked and can't be told nothing. Most of us going to stay there. So by the power of the Most High, He's going to deliver you. Now let me get to the scripture, what it said for the future. It says, and he said to Abram, and this is from Genesis, Bereshith is the Hebrew name. It says, and he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed, Abraham's seed, will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs. That's important because this is a prophecy that came true 3,000 years ago. How can you speak of the Most High and you don't know what it's saying? Okay, so it's telling you 3,000 years earlier, we're going to be sojourners in a land that is not ours, and we shall serve them, these white people, and they shall afflict us for 400 years. The United Nations recognizes 1619 is the year, 2019 is 400 years. Let me continue. But the nation whom they serve, I'm going to judge. This judgment is now. This is why all this stuff is happening with the economy, with the weather, and all this stuff. It says, I'm going to judge, and afterward, let them come out with great possession. So understand the Bible. Don't just say God and God this, and you go off into some other tangent. The Most High says, look, I'm setting my face apart of you because you broke my commandments. You started worshiping other gods, and it was other things that we did. Like we killed every prophet that was sent to Israel. That's why it says in the New Testament that this nation is going to suffer for the killing of the prophets. That was all the other prophets and the Messiah. So for that, we were sent and scattered into slavery to distant nations. And he says, once you come back to me and serve me the way that you're supposed to, when you made the agreement to keep my commandments that were sealed in blood, once you do that, I will hear you. And there's people that's doing that. So understand what it's saying if you're going to mention the Bible. And then when you link history, they telling you also through history that those people that was in Africa was Hebrews. They were known as the Portuguese Jews. All it is, we're here now, it's a continued persecution. If you notice, the United States, their symbol is what? The eagle. The eagle is also the symbol of Rome. It's the same thing. The management of courts and judgment. What is that? That's Rome. They keep the pagan calendar, which is the Gregorian, and we didn't keep that. So the thing is, have an understanding. That's all I'm saying. And I don't mean this to be an offense or anything. I don't want it to come off like that. So I want us to be successful. That's the main thing. I do want us to be successful. And in terms of money, I hope everybody understands this money is fiat currency. We should be investing in silver and gold. I do that. And a lot of other people do it that are not even Hebrew or know any other thing that I'm talking about. But the thing is, this money system is yet another lie and another snare. Up until 1971, the dollar was back with gold. President Nixon stopped that. Since then, inflation and all these other things with the economy is happening. Silver, gold, like this. These are rounds that I just got on my desk. Well, I'm sorry. You can't see them.
Oh, we still can't. Oh, okay.
But the thing is, that's one of the things that we should be preparing for, as this system is coming to an end, because we got bricks and this and that. I'm getting off point. Thank you for your time.
Well, listen, thank you guys. And listen, everyone, this is a very engaging conversation. Something is wrong with my system. Will everybody please mute your mute? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, very good. This is a conversation that is required to really have a good historical perspective, and I want to get too much off of the topic of did African sell Native Africans into slavery. But as you see, other things can come into play in this discussion, and I'm grateful. I want to recognize that Sarah has a hand up for a question, but also we have a person on that I see iPhone. I don't see a name, if you will. Please let me know who you are, iPhone. And if you don't acknowledge yourself, I will remove you from the meeting. Politely, I have to know who's in our meetings. And you might have good intentions, but can you unmute yourself and identify yourself? The person that you should see yourself on the screen, iPhone.
Levi Mackey.
Oh, Levi Mackey. Oh my God. Is that Mr. Mackey?
Yes, sir.
Do I know you, Mr. Mackey?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mackey. Bless you so much, sir. Bless you. And I'm sure you're being inspired in this conversation that's being had today. And I'm grateful for you being here, Reverend Mackey. Let me put it that way correctly.
Yeah, I'd say brother is your line brother.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Sarah has a comment she would like to share, and also Lucille, Lucy in Kenya. I want to thank you for being in here. But Sarah, please speak up. And you need to unmute.
I believe that's Doja, and Mr. Lawrence had something to say as well. But although religion is a big part of the slave trade and everything else, I was wondering, because we're supposed to be talking about the Atlantic slave trade with respect to everyone's different beliefs and how they identify and whatever their belief systems, their different breakdowns of different religions or sub religions that they follow, whether you're Israelite, Pentecostal, Catholic, or whatever. I just want to I want to get back on the topic of the slave trade because it's kind of getting a little bit mixed up, where we're going back and forth about religion, but not necessarily. And I know it ties in, but whoever's chosen and whoever's not chosen. But I just like to get back and forth instead of on religion, to get back and forth to the slave trade, talk about slave trade in Africa and America and how we can heal together as a whole.
Beautiful. And that is the concept, how we can heal together as a whole. And I thank you, Sarah, for re-steering us back to the original point of the discussion. Did African sell Native Africans into slavery? Unfortunately, we don't have any Native Africans on today, unfortunately. One lady specifically who I thought was going to be in the meeting is not in here. I'm sorry.
I'm not Native African. I was born in America, but
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so do you hear from your point of view, you lived in Sierra Leone, you're in the Gambia now, you've been, and your family is well invested.
I grew up as a Sierra Leonean as well.
Okay. So from your perspective and your grandparents being very involved in much of the political systems in Africa at the time of their living, do you, from what you've been told, were you made aware that Africans did sell Native Africans into slavery, or you heard differently than that?
Well, what I
did you hear
heard,
both?
because my grandmother was the last queen. Her great grandmother was a queen or a chiefess, or whatever you would consider it at that time. She was a queen. So what I was told is because the people on Bont Island in Sierra Leone were being stolen, and she caught one of the people, the captain, and her people came back and told her, and she told her people to catch the captain and the slave. So I know they're probably, because there is tribalism, I do believe that most likely tribes maybe sold other tribes, but I don't believe that anyone necessarily stole, because what back then there were kings, there were queens, there were chiefs for each village and each tribe. So it would make no sense to sell your own people into slavery, because then who are you ruling?
Okay,
Mhm,
wonderful point.
mhm.
Lucy and
So
Kenya.
that's from my family history.
Okay,
My grandmother caught my not my grandmother, but my grandmother's, I don't know if that would be my great grandmom or my great great grandmom, but she was a queen that caught someone. And we've heard stories about the queen in Nigeria that also caught the slave master and put him in prison, which is how we got the Negro spiritual Amazing Grace. He was he wrote that song atoning for his sins that he committed against Africans, selling them into slavery. So if you look up the story of Amazing Grace and how it came to be, that's from also from the same type of situation. So
so
I don't believe that every African or that Africans in general. I think some were tricked into it, because some, like, even my family said, not my family, but when we got married, my husband's family, there was a girl that came up and said that she was their family slave at the at his compound. He said, "I need to come and work for you guys as your slave." And I was like, "What is she talking about?" So he explained it to me about how, like, usually, like, in the old times when the people got married, like, a young person would come and stay at the house, and they would, like, work for the family, and the family would feed them. Usually it's a poor person, and the married couple or the family would take care of that person and help them financially and with schooling or whatever else. So
yeah,
then it made sense to me. But I think slavery is different in the sense that when you talk about European slave trade, it's different than how having slavery in Africa before that, the African slave trade was more like having a maid.
and that's
And they even do that now in Arab countries like Dubai. I'm just speaking from my experience. I see somebody shaking their head, but I'm just speaking from my experience. And in Gambia, where I've lived for the last 3 years, and in Senegal and in Sierra Leone, like, someone offered to be our slave, and I said no, because I'm American, so I said no, because I just felt like even the name of it was kind of degrading. So I said no.
and I would say from the perspective of the person who was volunteering to be
Yeah,
your
they were
slave,
volunteering to be our
she didn't
slave.
she didn't see herself as being someone that was being subjected to what you and I grew up understanding what slavery was all about. But Mr.
Yeah.
Ross, you have your fingers shaking, sir. And by the way, you're driving in your car. We appreciate that. Uh, we're
I
inside of your Mercedes Benz too while you're driving. Go on.
Yeah, yeah. I've stopped the car. I'll pick up my son in a little while. I gotta get those directions in. But as she says, as we all know, Africa is a vast place with very many different cultures, and the idea of is a chief selling his own people unwillingly? No, a chief is not selling often his own people, but a chief could be selling prisoners of war. And these wars are many times caused by a desire to get slaves, to get to the Europeans, to get some guns, to get some more stuff. Bam. So I understand where she may. Now, I've lived in Africa too, and I've seen where they will take, just like some of us, they will take advantage of their own relatives. You see where they have child labor, where you say this cobalt, coltan, and all of that, where you say Europeans are the ones that are telling them you can't use children to go down into those shafts. Otherwise, they use children. Okay. We've been, I guess, Europeanized since a lot of us got away from the culture we should have had, even in Africa. That's why we got subjected so quickly, and we're still subjected there and now, because we got away from how we should be towards each other.
Right, right.
Okay?
Okay. Mr. Ross, I wanted to acknowledge we have another gentleman that's joined the room, Mr. Agrima. And how are you doing, sir? Everybody, if you haven't gotten to know him, you must. He's a genius. He lives in the Gambia.
And he has the same name as my husband.
Yes, you guys have the same name, but if you will, and also I want to not let Lucy in Kenya. I know you've been hearing the conversation, Lucy. I want to chime on the fact that you got a new book that's been published, and when we can one day, we'll have you on so you can present your book. But Ms. Ibrahim, if you will speak, and then I want Lucy just to tell me from her perspective, what is her thought about slavery? She grew up in Kenya, and maybe she has something she can share. But Ms. Ibrahim, if you would just hello to everybody, we would appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. I trust you're all doing well. My name is Lucille from Kenya, and I'm glad to be joining this great conversation. Although I don't have anything to share for now, but I've been listening to the great conversation. I was not there during the slave trade. I've read about it, but maybe I'll share next time because I didn't have enough time to,
Prepare for
get
it.
research.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we want to congratulate you on your book. It's going to be, August the 5th, you're going to do a launch in the USA, right?
Yes, I'm launching my first book.
Yes.
As they say, only you can tell your own story. Nobody else can. And I've gone through a lot of, process and the changes in my life that I would want to inspire other people. It's from pain to gain. And even as we learn about the slavery, there's some things that enslave ourselves, even in today's lives, in our personal lives. And that's what I'm sharing in the book. I will not be able to be in the US, but it will be virtual. And hopefully I'll share the link, whoever will be available can join me to celebrate this great achievement. Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
God
Lucille.
bless.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bramy, are you able to unmute yourself for a moment? And then after you finish, Elena, you have a comment I think you want to make. Mr. Bramy?
That's true. Yes, I am going to.
You know you can't come in and not speak.
Thank you very much. But I'll be here listening to because I didn't. I am not comfortable right now. I'm driving home, so I just saw the link and I said, let me click it and be part of the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
I wanted him to say real quick about I don't know if it's a give you thing, but about how I was explaining earlier that my husband talked about the lady that came to us and said that she was his slave and wanted to continue to be a slave, our slave when we got married.
You want his comment about
yeah that? I want his comment on that because it's not something that I grew up in I don't know because I was younger when I was in Sierra Leone, but it's not something that I'm accustomed to hearing, someone volunteering to be someone's slave.
Mr. Ibrahim, have you been made aware of that in your experiences? I know you lived in USA and you're in the Gambia now, but is that something that happened? And that's not rare. That's common.
No, not from here. Like somebody volunteered and said, "I want to be a slave." Not actually here.
Okay. Okay.
No, no. I know for a fact that slavery is in, put it this way, they're using blacks for that one. Even now, slavery is here. You go to Senegal, Mauritania is just like these Arab people. They're still using black people as slaves. But I never see anybody volunteering saying, "I want to be a slave." I never heard of that one.
Okay.
What
You had to be,
about like not as not like how the West African slaves, not in the cruel way, but I mean like in generations past, did they have slaves within
mhm.
the homes?
No,
Like
we
people
follow,
like people who maybe the family were given when they got married, and then they worked for the people and the people took care of whoever that person was. Maybe it's not called slavery, maybe you term it as something else, but the person actually said that they wanted to be our slave, and that
okay.
kind of turned me off.
No, I believe slavery is not by choice. Slavery has to be by force. The term slavery, it cannot be by choice. It has to be by force. So if anybody volunteer to be slave, that is different. You know what I mean? But I never see that one. People can, they are mates here. Maybe if that's common even in the European countries where people are looking for job to become a housemaid. But that is different from slavery. Slavery is, to my understanding, is by force. It's not by choice. You know what I mean? You have to work for me, whether you like it or not. That's different from me working and be getting paid for it. You know what I mean? So I really don't come across with anything like that before.
Okay.
I love that distinction, Mr. Ibrahim, because in slavery, you have no choices. Choices
No,
are already made for you by those who own you. And thereby you're
exactly.
actually, yeah, beautiful distinction,
Yes.
everyone. And we got a lot of people in. Is there anybody, I see another iPhone, and Mr. Mackey, I appreciate you identifying yourself. Well, there's another person that has iPhone. If you will, distinguish yourself, if you will. Hello? Okay, I guess whoever it is. And whoever has the iPhone, okay, I don't see that happening right now. I don't want to kick anybody out of the meeting, but folks, Facebook has been on this group, watching the group. And so I kind of want to make sure I have people in that I'm comfortable with and I know. But Elena, you got your hand up. I want you to go ahead and share your comment, please, ma'am.
Well, a few things that I've heard in the conversation. One, my organization is Queens of Africa, United International Foundation USA, a registered governmental organization, 501c3. In regards to what Sarah has said, I would like to piggyback off of that because my son's grandfather from Ghana, who is deceased, he would tell me a lot of stories about Ghana and also about Hebrew Israelites. Now, the uncle that's currently living in Ghana, he said, well, Elena, we are the original Hebrew Israelites. And he gave me the journey that they took to get to the Gold Coast, which is now called Ghana. And he said a lot of them here already know that they are the Hebrew Israelites. And many of them there do know this already, and some of them don't know it because if the story wasn't told to them, they don't know it. They're just existing. Also, in regards to if you had a lot of kids in a family, they would send the kids to go and work with another family to get food to bring back home. sometimes for example, there was a movie out about this where the dad committed murder and they try to hide it. And they found out it was the dad. So to prevent the dad from going to jail because he was the primary provider of the family, they sold the daughter to a chief that had many wives to work off the prison time. So she was never getting out of the prison. So it's certain cultural behavior things such as that has went on a continent of Africa that has forced people into slavery, has forced people into prison. I would ask, well, how come you got so many wives? You know, why do you practice polygamy a lot? Polygamy because if it was a farmer, if a man was a farmer, if he went fishing, he would have children with multiple wives so that they could come and work for the father to prevent from having to hire on employees and pay them. That's why a lot of polygamy was and still is being practiced on the continent of Africa. Again, like the brother said, slavery is forced upon you. And I'm not sure exactly who said this, but
Ibrahima, Mr. Ibrahima.
Yes, it wouldn't be a chief or a king that would sell their own people into slavery unless they hated their relative and wanted to get rid of them. They were fighting for money and power, and they would capture these smaller, weaker villages and pull them into slavery. And once you pull people into slavery, how are you going to take care of them? So you're going to sell them. So that's what they were doing. They were selling them. They wasn't selling their own people into slavery. They were selling another, you know, that's your rival. You're going to sell them into slavery. You don't care about them. So slavery as a whole still, as we have already come to the conclusion of, exists on the continent of Africa. And a lot of it has to do with family members selling their children into slavery, making blood sacrifices, generational curses, selling them into prostitution. Some countries is very welcoming to open prostitution. You would have to think as a parent, why would you sell your children? But if that's the culture and the behavior that you have been raised within, then that's what you're going to do unless something click in your mind and say, this is just not right. I don't want to do that. My place in Kauswa, when I'm there, something I noticed, and it has to do with being gullible and naive. The kids was happy to see somebody from another country. They will come over to the house willingly, walk in. They freely walk around in the neighborhood without underwear on, the little kids, and some even the younger girls. They don't have underwear underneath their dress. And I sat there and said to myself, the spiritually connected, that, wow, this is how sex trafficking gets started. They allow the kids to run through the village or through the area. And then they go into houses where people, that's why people come over to Africa and pray, P-R-E-Y, pray on the vulnerable. Because many of the parents are working and they let the kids run freely. I've seen it with my own eyes, and I have to educate them and say, do not trust everybody that comes from another country. They can easily take those innocent kids and do something to them, and they come up missing because the parents allow them to run freely and trust other people. Now, I'm going to conclude with the young lady from Kenya. I would like you to contact me on WhatsApp because I do have events and opportunities that I give in America where people may be able to qualify and come under my organization to America. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Mackey, and first of all, let me recognize Clarence, who just joined our meeting not too long ago. Mr. Mackey, you're still in. Do you want to comment, sir? Reverend Mackey? Okay, he may have left the meeting. Clarence, thank you for coming in. You see that we have a very engaged conversation going on, and all of it stems from the fact, did Africans sell Native Africans into slavery? And back and forth, we hear conversation. It relates a lot to religion, cultural belief for the villages, but certainly slavery is something that exists. But go on, Mr. Ibrahima.
Yes, I really don't know when the actual conversation starts, but all these things has to be done with a mindset. As the sister is saying, kids are running freely without an underwear. Once you are not living in a wolf camp, you will not realize where the wolves are existing. The Europeans have been a human of disaster since at day one. So anything with a white man, anything with a European, is a disaster to the Black people. I don't believe Black people will sell their own people. There is no selling before the arrival of the Europeans in the African continent. Why should selling happen when the Europeans get there? When they're the one who introduced that gun? Is what I'm saying? So I really don't learn that one from school. It's like when I was living in the UK, one of the Jamaicans come to me and tell me, brother, why does the African don't like Jamaicans? I told him, well, this is my first time to hear that. Have you ever been to Africa? This is a continent of 1,000 different languages, together with 2,000 different ethnic groups. We have the brain to create this kind of stuff. Especially in the Gambia here, your kids can go anywhere without anybody supervising them because there is no lion hiding somewhere. You know what I mean? So it depends on where you grow. But if you wanted to get into the European mentality in Africa, it's going to be a little bit tough because we believe on family ethics. We believe on being together. We believe on looking for each other. That's why Africa is so diverse. That's why it's going to be very difficult to unite us together because everybody is born in a cultural thing, norms and values. So it's going to be very difficult. You can put the continent together, but putting the people together is going to be very, very difficult. So yes. I will go back to the kids walking without underpants. They don't even wear pants here. I am almost 50 years. Is what I'm saying. But lately, I have ever seen somebody take someone's kid. In the United States, when you leave your kid in 2 seconds, you lose it. Because the white people are born to be destroyed. That's who they are. If you live with them, you have to be them. That's what I understand. But I believe Africa, I never heard of that one, but I believe nobody will sell your own kids or your own sister or your own brother. Go back to the United States. Even in the United States, we as Black people have more of loving each other. You go to the Black community in the US, you know what I mean, without the interference of the white people, even if they are poor, still unite. But when you drop these people in there, they build all those prisons and everything just to keep people in. People of what color? So that's the reality. So I don't really believe Africans are selling Africans. And I never read that one in any African book, though I'm not a historian, but I don't hear it and I never read it. So I believe this is a cycle of white thinking. Try to keep that division still existing between the Black anywhere in the world by saying, okay, fine, your brother sells you. But this selling things in back, if it is happened, it happened in the United States. When you colonize the whole entire family, you're mixing everything, selling people like animals for your own personal use. To be honest, I don't believe on that. I don't believe Africans sell their own Africans. I believe people come here with whatever force they have to do and grab their things and go. That's what it is. And they are doing it even right now. How many people are jailed in the United States compared to black population and white? They're still doing it. So I really don't believe that one.
Mr. Bremen, you still operate a radio station in Gambia?
Yes, I am building it. I already built it. I built it. That one is finished now. That one is already done, and I'm also doing the renewable energy for rural Gambia who doesn't have access to electricity. So I build these solar generators and supply to the communities. We also are doing this agriculture for connecting women to do farming and buy those products for them. I also build these cold stores for women, Gambia women farmers.
Got you.
So I'm working a little bit here.
Got you. Mr. Bremen, if you will, one day in the future, I would like to do a Zoom meeting specifically for you, as you can present and have discussion about your businesses and your involvement, and maybe other members of Exploring the Continent of Africa can get involved with what you're doing, with assisting you. Is that okay?
I didn't hear. You said what?
I would like to one day in the future, if you would allow me to have a Zoom meeting with you, so you can discuss your businesses, and maybe there are members within Exploring the Continent of Africa can help participate. Would that be something you would like to do?
That would be good. That would be good, because my
okay.
idea is right now I have 300 square land that I'm trying to build. So I'm engaging in a lot of people that move from America to here to make sure they settle home. Like I like the one that you introduced me to, Angie. So yes, we moving around. I'm building so many things. I'm doing so many things, but
I know you are.
getting people to come to Gambia and feel home, settle home. You don't have to work and try to feel different when you are home. You know what I mean? So the only best way we can do that is to unite and look forward and try to push those kind of hunters away from our society. In a sense, we can live as a decent people. So I am definitely working with a lot of people from America, Europe, or whatever. It build them houses, you know what I mean, engage them, create business for them. So we building this network. And also the radio we wanted to create a TV show so that people from diasporas can also come and exercise their voice.
Gotcha. Okay. We have hands up, and I'm sorry, I think Mr. Green and then Sarah. Mr. Green? Well, maybe you left your hand up. Sarah, Elena, you have your hand up again? You have more comments?
Yeah, the brother that was saying that he doesn't believe that Africa sold their own people. Listen, people sell their own people in America. It just do it in different ways. But there is a chief old Nana Obaski who sent me a letter personally, and I sent that letter to Brother Tyrone. And it acknowledges the wording is very creative when you want to read it, but it's basically acknowledging that they apologize from engaging into slavery and selling people into slavery, engaging into the Atlantic slave trade. So, our mind can tell us anything that, we want to believe. We just can be like, I just don't believe that. Some people just don't believe that there's a God. You can believe anything you want to believe, but people been selling and doing things to their own people within their own family. If there's jealousy, I mean, you can just watch their movies. Those pieces are not made up just because they just made up and want to put it out there and get ratings. It's things that really happen. You got family members who will turn on you, who will poison you, who will go to the shrine if you believe in it, and they'll kill you. They'll do certain things to you if they're jealous of you. So if you say, I don't believe that they would sell, yes, Africa is about unity. That's one of the things I like traditionally about
that is
Africa.
one-on-one.
That's
is one-on-one. We're talking about millions of.
Okay, I was speaking.
Go on,
Thank
Elena.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're saying that Africa is a continent of unity, I do believe that. That's one of the reasons why I come back, because I like the unity. That's one of the reasons why I give events, culture events, because God wants us to have good culture events, and He doesn't want us to exertly work ourselves hard every day. If you are in business, you're called by God to make sure that business goes well in the kingdom, to be a help to the kingdom, to be a help to people. So that's a special gift if you're called to be able to have that mind to want to be able to do certain things. A lot of the diasporas right now that are in, as far as that are in Ghana. Now, there's some that come from Gambia, but we won't touch on that. I'm talking about Ghana, where they're seen as just money bags over there currently in Ghana. It's like about taking, taking, taking. It's not being reciprocated. So, we can have a subject of agree to disagree, and yet just can't believe that Africans stole their own people. People do wrong to their own people. They will do it. And especially if there's jealousy within a family, they can sell them, they can poison them, they can kill them, they can do a lot of things. So, I mean, you just have to do more research and learn about that. But I understand, at times we don't want to engage our mind into that type of negative energy. But at the end of the day, it does exist. It still exists, and it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay, thank you. And folks, that's why we're having this discussion. No person opinion dominate anything here. We are open to hear what the other person have to say, and they can validate their position. It might be different in your opinion, and we're going to use the word opinion, because unless we have facts to validate everything that we say, it happens to be an opinion. And we all are good to have an opinion, and that's why we need to share those opinions. But when we get beyond opinions and we get beyond a disagreement, we still have to respect each other for our differences. Now, Sarah, I think you have your hand up. Did you wanted to comment?
Yes. I just wanted to say that we know slavery happened. That's a fact. We know there are Africans that also travel, and that's a fact. We know blacks were the first people on earth, and that's a fact. But how can we move forward? How can we heal? I believe slavery is not just whatever happened to us in colonization of the countries and stuff, but I believe it continues to happen because, like Bob Marley and also Lucky Dube from South Africa said, we are prisoners of our own minds, and we have to emancipate ourselves from slavery. Emancipate your mental brain from mental slavery. I mean,
Wonderful.
so we're still living in, I don't know what happened.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I just don't know what just happened. It was like
No,
a glitch or something.
no.
Okay, so
I just shared a letter of apology that was mentioned by Elena.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think like we can go back and forth about who did it and who didn't do it. And I know as far as my family, I know for sure that we were not a part of it. So that's my family. I can't speak for other tribes. I know there was another queen in Nigeria that did not do it, but we can speak from our I think Americans are allowed their own feelings, their own personal feelings, but we also have to acknowledge that history keeps being retaught. Now in American schools, they're trying to teach children that history was beneficial to black people.
You mean
So
slavery?
Slavery,
Yeah.
slavery.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it keeps being retaught and retaught. But what we have is we have to go back to our roots and maybe find out about our family's history and our genealogy to find out how our people got to where they are and where they started from us. For us, it's written and it's verbal in my family's both sides. Yeah. And my husband also is verbal, like he can trace about 4 generations. So we have to get back to, because if we depend on the European, they're going to teach us whatever they want us to learn about slavery and about colonization, about right now. My husband was telling me, I don't know because we don't get the same news, but he asked me how I missed that. Now, there, you, the EU is mad at African leaders because they want to work with Russia on Brexit or whatever, and that benefits Africa because Russians are going to do trade with African countries, but the European Union has never wanted to do fair trade with African countries.
Okay, okay.
So
Every
he asked me, how did you miss that? I said, well, we only get the news here that they want us to see. So I'm seeing Donald Trump again all day and his court hearings, and I'm seeing Biden and his son Hunter and all that on the news and all the killings. That's what I'm seeing. I said, I'm not seeing what I used to see from the outside. What you get in America is what they want you to see. So we have to keep that in mind as we talk about these issues. And as we, like I said, we want to heal from them too, whether that's through therapy, whether that's through biblical meditation and prayer, whether that's through just going back and learning your history and genealogy and going back to those areas where your family lived and ask questions.
well, and again, today's discussion is about really the basic of it is to heal so we can move forward as a united race. If you guys are able to see the letter of apology that was sent to me by Elena that you spoke of earlier, former chief in West Africa, and at the very bottom sentence, if you could read it, it may not be big enough for you. It states, in addition, I ask for the forgiveness and extend my hand seeking the opportunity to join with my estranged African family members to walk together hand in hand in a collaborative effort to heal from our common wounds of slavery. This specific chief that was wise enough to put this letter together understood what it is to go back and recognize what happened. It wasn't right, and what it has done to us today. But we have to be able to look at what happened, put it behind us, so we can come together and walk hand in hand. And I think this is a beautiful letter. If you guys want it, Lane, if you don't mind, I will share it to anybody who should ask for it. But I think it's something everybody needs now. Mr. Clarence, I see your hand.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
everybody should have a copy so they can reference to it. So
Okay.
if there are when someone comes and say, I don't believe this ever happened, then you can give factual documentation of, hey, that this is from a chief in Ghana on the Cape Coast that they have written. He didn't write this letter. He had to have a collaboration in writing this particular letter. So it's not like he just made it up on his own. They know their history. They know what they did. So
But that's, go ahead and finish and then I'll raise my hand.
they're writing for what they did. So if it didn't happen in Senegal, if it didn't happen in Somalia, well, we know Somalia has slaves down there already. But anyway, if it didn't happen in a particular African country that you're in, well, for sure we know it happened on the coast of Ghana. So I'm speaking now from the coast of Ghana, and people from other parts of Africa was brought there and traded. So I'm going with on the coast of Ghana. Maybe in another part of Africa, they didn't have slavery going on. So I can't speak for the whole continent, but on the west part of Africa, yes, there is documentation that slavery did take place and it did happen.
Okay. And African slave. Mr. Clarence, I see your hands up. You want to comment, sir? Yes, sir. You need to unmute yourself. If you will, unmute yourself, please, sir.
Okay. Well, I would like a copy of this letter, first of all.
Okay.
But I was listening, this slavery, this letter pertains to slavery years ago, or are they saying that slavery is still going on? Or are they still selling slaves out of Africa today?
Let me kind of speak up, and anybody who wants to clarify it better than I can. You got a two-part question, in my
Yes.
opinion.
Yes, sir.
And this letter is to address the historical aspect of slavery.
Okay.
That's what the chief is trying to do. But the other part, part two of your question, is slavery still going on today? I would regrettably, I say it with the deepest amount of human shamefulness to anybody who participate in it. The answer is yes. If you guys, you know, the fundraising that we did for the Bantu tribe in Somalia, we raised money to donate food to. The money went to people who are actually slaves. Those are the people that was abandoned due to the flooding conditions. And so that money that was, and even though we didn't use slaves in terms of the collection of the money, but that's what that money went to. Slavery is alive in Africa today. It is. Now, if you look at slavery, I don't want to get too detailed because other people might want to comment. Please forgive me, anybody. The perception is that when an African have a slave and when a European have a slave, are they treated differently? Okay.
Yes.
And it is believed that Africans would treat their slaves much better than Europeans would treat their slaves because of the genetic connection. Whereas white Europeans would get slaves and just dog them out, sexualize them, do whatever that they want to, lynch them if they care to, mistreat them. And I'm not saying all white people did that, but we know enough about our history to say that that is a truth to that.
Yeah.
But slavery does exist today in Africa. If anybody wanted to call on and welcome in, Brother Beans. Welcome to the house. If anybody want to chime in about today slavery in Africa, please express your opinion as well.
Well, I'll say it does exist now, but we have to also acknowledge the different regions and how, like for instance, the Arab areas like Tunisia and Angola, and how they're treating the black slaves. And they're also taking people, stealing slaves from Nigeria, or those people are being sold into slavery by different militia groups and smuggled into North Africa. And those people are beaten, they're abused, and they're treated badly by those people who are, I don't know if you will consider them white or Arab.
Okay. Now,
Hello, Dr. Means.
Well, you know, you know, Tom, I don't interrupt you, but
go on.
You know, what gets me is if you want someone to help you with your and you're gonna make them your slave or whatever, why do they have to be mistreated? Because you're not gonna get your best out of that person. You know, as a matter of fact, you know, I don't understand slavery in the United States, because I mean they had slaves that, what they said, house Negroes, field Negroes. Why would they trust a slave to fix their food if they mistreating them? You know, so I don't understand how the mistreating part gets in. I mean, you should always you would want them to you should want to edge them on, at least lie to them or beat them and mistreat them.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
that's the aspect of being a slave, the condition that many people, if you can, and I read a book for my own learning about slavery, Up from Freedom. I believe that, no, Ain't I a Woman? Ain't I a Woman by Sojourner Truth. You should read that if you can, sir. It's a great book, and I referenced the book because in the book she explained that she was working in her master kitchen, the slave owner kitchen, and her slave owner spoke Dutch. She didn't speak that language, and the slave owner was telling her what to do, and she didn't know what to do. She was so frustrated because she so much wanted to do what was being asked her to do. Slave owner came to her, got a stick, and beat her hand, and beat her hands in such ways that she began to understand what the slave owner was asking her to do. There was no interpreter there to interpret the language. She didn't know
Yes.
that. So she was beat cruelly. That's the way things happen over in America. Not all slave owners did that, I understand that, but that's
Yeah.
generally the way it happened. Okay, everybody, I don't want to get my mouth too long. Any other comments, please chime in. I see Mr. Ross and Mr. Green that are up.
Okay, I'm back. Let's see. Brother, you mentioned how could you treat them bad when you get better out of them when you treat them well? Okay.
Right.
The
Right.
idea is superiority. You got to show you are superior to whoever you have. If this a slave, if it's a dog, otherwise it turns into negotiation. You know, I mean, you being nice, what do you say? People mistake kindness for weakness. If you in charge, you can't be kind. Just my idea.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green, your hand is up. I guess you might want to chime in.
Silence.
Mr. Green? Okay, did somebody else? Elena, did you want to comment? Your hand is up. I don't know if it's left by
Oh, I
mistake.
don't know. Well, I don't know if that's stayed up or not, but since it's up, I would say that not all slave masters or however way you want to tell them the word slave. I can tell you myself at one time when I was reading the Bible, I used to get afraid, insulted by the word slave until, I was dealt with it better. I learned better and learned the different words that we transitioned into using. But not all slaves was treated badly. They have some really good masters. That's why I referenced earlier. You have good landlords, you have bad landlords. You got good people, you got bad people. Some people even left their helpers, slave helpers, whatever you want to call them, butlers, because even the Bible saw butlers. They left them land. They gave them freedom, their papers, because that's what they were doing at that time. So, there's brutality that took place, but then there's also some people that were really treated well and blessed and got freedom. They was given freedom papers to go on and do what they needed to do and live their lives. Because at the end of the day, if we were all still stuck in the mind of slavery, we wouldn't even be sitting on this call right now with Brother Tyrone having a meeting, being able to express ourselves. We'll be out there in that 100-degree heat unless we have a job that is paying us by choice to work that job. We'll all be forced right outside right now in that 100-degree heat unless we was lighter skins and were able to work inside the house with the master and the missus. So slavery is, again, can be within the mind and how you deal with certain things. You understand? So, and a lot of that, I don't want to touch back on religion, but a lot of it has to do with praying and, certain things that is written for us to follow so that we can get that green mark on our paper and not that red mark. So, that's what I want to say. All slavery wasn't bad because some people benefited very, very, very well from it.
But not like the governor in Florida is talking about. Let's make that clear.
Well,
so-
I mean, again, that goes back to having to go back to have. Well, first of all, you got to look at the fact of its culture. There, white people are not considered minority. So, the next people in line that's trying to come up and be the superiority is the Mexicans and who is the light skinned ones. They're trying to take Spanish. They're the ones that's trying to come up and take the Pan-African place. I had a debate going back and forth, and that's how I learned that. I said, wow, they're the one. They said Pan-African had their time. They said, we are slow. Y'all ain't doing nothing. So they're trying to move into first place. That's why they're making you Spanish speaking the primary language right now, forcing the kids to speak primary language Spanish in America. They're trying to move into the superior.
Okay. So I want to recognize we have two persons that join our meeting, Mr. Kenneth Sams and also Brother Means. Guys, I know if you've been listening, I thank you for listening, and now you're inside. This is a pretty engaged conversation. Topic is the African sale Native Africans into slavery. You care to comment? Dr. Means? No comment. Mr. Sams, any comments?
No comments.
No comment. Oh, okay, okay. Well, look, we've been engaged in this conversation for some time, and I think it's been very beneficial.
Tyrone,
Yes, sir. Please.
I just want to interject one thing to Sister Mother Diaspora, okay, which she will understand in that no man is good. And some idea that so-called master, he is using you just to take advantage of. I'm a good person, but I just have to take advantage of you so that I could live well. That is not good. Now, some people may have given something, they may have had some kids, they may have had some feelings, okay? But no man is good, and taking advantage of you to make a profit is not good. We have to have the right frame of mind as we go into this battle.
You say no man is good?
That's what the Bible says. That's what the Bible says.
The world is very
That's what
big.
the Bible says. No man is good. Am I correct?
Are you? So you're speaking about yourself? You speak because you're not speaking about me.
I'm talking about the Bible.
Okay,
Says,
we can go back
no
and forth on
man.
this one. So you got to speak for yourself. You got to speak for yourself. And you got to make your heart right. You got to make yourself good. You got to make your heart right. So I guess
I understand you.
When it says the no man is good, that
I
means
think
that
I
you
understand.
we have to agree to disagree with this.
Yeah.
So
hold it, guys. Hold it. Let's take a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pause. Now, Mr. Ross, you're making your point from a biblical perspective based on your reading of the scripture, right?
Right.
And Eleni, you're making your point based upon from your own knowledge of history as to how some whites were with slaves in America. And but yeah, and I understand. And listen, and sometimes everybody can be right about the same thing, even though the position that you take might be incredibly different, but two things can exist at the same time. Let's respect that reality. So, and I will attest to you guys, at the age of 4, I had the opportunity to meet my great grandmother who was born into slavery. I don't look like her, and she didn't look like me, but she was a beautiful black silky woman. And standing beside her on her bed were her 4 kids, children, should I say. Kids is inappropriate, I use that all the time. If you looked at her kids, descendants of her, they were mulatto. They were just as white as a white person could be. Well, that came from the slave master who owned my great grandmother. And when she died, I wasn't able to talk with her. She was not able to talk to me because of the condition that she was living under. But her kids all owned property, and they were very well educated, not college educated as such, but they were very intelligent as they were. But they owned, I think, maybe 200 acres of land. Now, she was born into slavery and died a free woman, but was she able to acquire that property on her own? The answer is no, she did not. So in that one case, and that one case only that I can attest to from my personal living experience, my grandmother apparently met a white man who loved her, and in such ways that he made provision for her kids to have something, their kids, should I say. Now, I'm not saying that was atypical in the South, because I know there's
It
a
wasn't.
possibility that some of my ancestors stole from one slave owner to another one. So I might have some relatives walk around here I never met before that we're related.
No doubt.
But let's be honest, slavery was a cruel system in America, harsh. No way that we can imagine the circumstances our ancestors lived through. And I'm grateful for how they struggled, because of the struggles that they've gone through, the fight that they learned how to fight, stand against opposition that we can't begin to imagine. We have benefited so much to our ancestors from the past, and I'm grateful for them. God knows if we could all go back to slavery, we would all walk in those cotton fields and tell them thank you.
I don't think we could
Okay.
survive slavery, to be honest.
Well, we have an endurance in us. I think that predicated upon how we have lived our life today, I think the answer would be no, we cannot.
No,
But if-
Sarah, right. I wouldn't be able to, I say that all the time. I wouldn't be able to stop no slavery with this heat. No, ain't no way.
And
but
I think I probably would have been one of those that would have walked into the ocean or killed my slave master, because there's no way that I would allow my slave master to rape me.
well,
Nat Turner, myself.
that's hard for us to know, to be very honest. That's the most difficult part.
Yeah.
Is that, listen, there has to be, I think, an element of love that was involved in some of those relationships. I'm not here to tell you that I know perfectly right on that. But if you woke up, Sarah, for instance, and you were told that your sister, who you close relationship with, and you love her, and you walked out to a tree and you saw your sister being lynched on that tree because the slave master wanted to send word to the entire building, to his own the slaves, you're not going to rebel against me.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, but then they used those kinds of tactics.
They did.
They whipped us. Look, our ancestors was whipped with.
That's why I said I couldn't live in those days, because
Yeah, well, you know what? So we have to admire the mere fact that our ancestors were able to go through those things. They made it to the other side.
Yes.
And circumstances that we cannot begin to imagine. It's no way that I can think that I could see a family member or a friend hanging from a tree, or stand out and witness the beating of my father with a whip, or to see a woman sexually molested in front of me. These things happen. Okay, I'm not making this stuff up. But all in all, those who saw that, those who were on the ship that came over, they made it. So this is who we are. We are the generation that came from very strong people. We're stronger as a result of that. But I'm sorry, everybody. You see, I love to talk. Any other comments, if you will?
Hey, I want to tell you about this one, something that my cousin told me. He said he was 9 years old, and this happened right in Mobile, Tyrone.
Okay.
They took his father away, and he never saw him again. And when he was telling me this story, he was 78 years old, and he wept. It stayed with him all those years. When he was 9, when he was telling me this, he was 78 years old. He wept like a baby. And it was just you said something about traumatic and withstanding things. We dumb people.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe I would have been like my great grandmother, and if I found, or great whichever she was to me, I don't know how far count that. If I would have found a white person in my garden stealing my people, I would have locked them under the jail. Probably I would have went further than that with my mentality. And even though it teaches you not to kill in the Bible, I probably would have killed them.
You know, that's a discussion for another day, how we
What?
would have been
Yeah.
slavery and the condition of
Yeah.
slavery. Yes, sir, Mr. Sam, your hands is up, my brother.
I will relate a story to you that my grandfather used to tell me. He been dead probably about 25 years now, and he was 78 years old when he died. He remember seeing them drag a man out and hang him from a tree. That same tree exists today. They built an interstate connection between I-65 and I-165. And this, I guess he's a supervisor, or whoever the lead man told him, don't touch this tree. This tree stand today that the man was hung from.
Wow.
One other thing I like to say, because it seems as though we're still stuck on the fact that every black came to America, came on enslavement ships. At one point, this whole world was black. That's all existed was black. Even the Bible said, let us change this darkness to light.
Come on, King.
It was all black. America was all black. Every country was all black. I have personally seen black Japanese, black Chinese, black Filipinos, black everywhere. They still exist. Who was raised on that ground. And somebody said something about somebody inherited land from their slave master. They didn't inherit it. It's just a return to them. We all are enslaved, no matter what position you think you're in.
Yeah.
If you're not in the 0.1% of the people of the world, you're a slave. You think you own a house, you can pay it off. You don't own it. You got to pay taxes on it. And if you don't pay taxes, they're going to take it. You're still a slave to the system. You may not be whipped by or being whipped with a, but you're still enslaved. I'm enslaved because I have to earn my money to give to them.
Right.
No matter how you look at it, there are presently today, people are being sold into enslavement.
Beautiful statement, sir.
And it ain't no way anybody can say a master was good, because if it was good, they would have never had anybody enslaved. They'd have got off their butt and did their own work.
Come on,
All
come
we
on.
did was make it easy for them. So it wasn't no good white man master. It never have and never will be. Because if they was good, you would not have enslavement.
Right. Oh, you're validating the point by Mr. Ross, and that's very good.
Yeah.
And someone else stated earlier about blacks were everywhere on the planet Earth. So, hey guys, so today's discussion, did Africans sell Native Africans into slavery? And the pretext of this is that we have, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So once you learn the truth and you are made to be free, the bigger question you need to ask yourself is, what do you do with that newfound freedom? Okay, because if this is part of understanding our history and to release the thoughts that slavery and Africans all connected themselves together or not connected. So in a sense, we are being released out of that concept of thinking to be free. So what do you do with the freedom? Mr. Bremen, I think you made some comments earlier about that. So if we're free, we need to find out how we pursue this freedom. And I'm not saying that we don't have answers already, but coming of knowledge, coming of understanding is a sense of empowerment. I think that's what we have to walk away with. If there's no other more comments, guys, we've been on for some time. I have enjoyed every moment of it. Anybody have any comments they would like to impart with or share?
Yeah, who was the first Black millionaire in America?
Madam C.J. Walker.
Black woman. So if a Black woman was the first Black millionaire in America, how can you say that there was not any, all Black people basically are enslaved, or that there was not any good white people that held Black people when you had the Black Panther organization fighting among each other and got thrown into jail, it was white. First of all, Black people didn't make no laws when they came to America, and they don't even really make no laws on the, well, they make their own laws on the continent of Africa. They just don't enforce them. But when you talk about coming to America and you had the Black Panther who was up there fighting among each other, its leaders that turned against each other, that were thrown into jail up there in New York, it was the whites and the Italians. Now, whether they was light-skinned or dark-skinned, but it was more like light-skinned, that went into the courthouse to help fight their case, to help them to be relieved.
Okay.
So when
One good white man in America.
When you're even talking about some of the court system in America, and you didn't have to have, it's supposed to be a corrupt system. It was a very corrupt system, but you have to have Black people actually freed out of that corrupt system. You didn't have some white attorneys that have come along and really helped some Black people out of some, how should I say, unjust situations.
They didn't get paid.
You can't really sit there and say that all white people are bad people.
I don't think that's what anyone's saying.
No good white people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, many people go under the knife every day.
I was saying slave masters. I never said all white.
Well, it doesn't matter. Slave master, we in 2023. Slave masters, yes, they did have good slave masters.
What?
I know that, yes, they did. You can say what if you want to.
I'm
yes,
going.
I think we have to take a time out.
In the era that my grandparents lived in, there was slavery, but there wasn't slaves. My grandfather, according to my mother, lived very well in the flea market in New Orleans. He had his own stall. The meat that she eat that I wouldn't want to eat, but what she called was good meat and good lifestyle and good living, and how they shopped at D.H. Holmes and Maison Blanche, was well-to-do white stores, and he had a credit card, and he was able to, do well for his family. So you still needed white people somewhere in the process to help the Black person during that era of time. So if you say there was not no good, that's going to be a biased judgment, personal statement based on your own personal belief.
Let me add to your comment, Lena. Booker T. Washington received financial assistance to help build Tuskegee from a white investor too, by the way. And that's history. I didn't make it up, but that is history there.
I know
that. I will say that we have to separate what we think from what the reality happens to be. But again, I think we said earlier that we will have different opinions, and no one person's opinion is better than the other one. Each opinion is to be respected because we all bring different experiences, and we've learned things differently. We've had experiences around people that I would never know that you know, and I have experience with people that you would never know that I know. So each person is very powerful with what we know and what we've learned. But to that letter that you shared with me, as the chief apologized to everyone, his last statement was, so we can walk hand in hand. And I think that's what we have to kind of come to reasoning, is that in spite of the differences that we all have, in spite of the opinion that might vary slightly, can we come together and walk together hand in hand? That's really the key. And but I think everybody has made some very good comments today.
Can I piggyback off her comment for a minute?
Yeah, please do, please.
As someone that was not born into or have any parents that were born or grandparents born in slavery that came over as immigrants, I can't relate directly, but with the friends that I have, including the friend that I'm staying with now, I have empathy, knowing, and for me, it's cruelty. The fact that they took people in ships, lined them up the way that they did, and put them in such conditions, and if they died or something, or if they felt like they were whatever, they just threw them over the ship. like animals. Then you get to America, you don't know where you're going. You get to America and they whoop you. They change your name. You didn't have any control over this. They change your name. You're sold. So whoever, whether you were a nice person or not, you know these conditions and you became a part of if you're not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. So if you bought a slave knowing the conditions that they came over for your own personal gain, I believe, although I probably have no right to say this, I believe that's cruelty. That's human cruelty. So I don't believe there's any beneficial. I don't believe in the critical race theory they're trying to push now in Florida. And I don't believe that there were good. I mean, people can disagree with me and I'm disagreeing with her, but I just think from the circumstances, and I've been on Banana Island and I've been on Kunta Kinte Island, now called James Island in Gambia, and I've seen slave reminiscences and different things. And when you look back and you actually are seeing the artifacts and things, and I'm sure she's seen the castle in Ghana. So when you see those things, and in some places you see, like in Sierra Leone on Banana Island, they have the chains, they have the remnants from the boats and different things. So when you see that, it brings, whether you're African or you're not, you're imagining that your people were taken away from family members, taken away, and you don't know if your family members are on the other side or not. And this is coming from an African saying this. So I believe it's something that happened that's inhumane. There's no way to whitewash it and try to make it sound good. It still exists, and it's still something that still I feel is a cruel part of history. And I think that to try to change it would be a mistake, because if we're not aware of our past, it will happen again.
Beautiful. By the way, something I've recently learned, you guys are all familiar with the name of the first ship that had slaves on it. It's coming to America. You guys know the name of that ship, right?
Jesus.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Yes. That first ship with slaves on it was called Jesus. It was named Jesus. Think about that. That's all you need to know if you really want to look at the history of the conflict, in which some would want to kind of make the world be different than what it happened to be. But I'm grateful for all the comments that's been discussed and shared, and the opinions of everybody in this group. I regret we don't have more people in here, but those who have been in this meeting, who've shared their comments, been very helpful. And but it's along the series of things that we need to talk about in order to unite, and ways in which that has not happened. But the time has come, I believe, for us to understand our differences, discuss those differences, and
Can we
grow
have a part two?
as we do so. I'm sorry?
Can we have a part two so we can go into the healing part? Because we covered the
I love
slave
that.
part, but I like to come up with the solution how we can heal
Well,
from it.
yes, I do agree. As a matter of fact, you were in the meeting last week, right? We talked about
Yes.
Santa and Christ. Yes. Why don't you and I discuss about how do we heal, and what steps we can take? Because I love what Elena said earlier. We can talk all day till our faces turn blue, and our breath smell like Listerine, but at the end of the day, we need a plan for my meeting, you, Sarah, Brema, Mr. Ross, Mr. Means. We are bigger than what the circumstances have made us to be, because we can project ourselves to be even bigger than who we are. I know it may seem to be and sound impossible, but we totally have control over everything that we do. And Mr. Sims, you said earlier, I think slavery still exists. Financially, yes, we're still strapped. But if we can create a millionaire at the time that, what's her name? Forgive me, guys, the owner who created
Jay Walker.
Yes, yes, yes. We can do even greater things. It's just that we have to believe it that way. But I want to thank everybody who's been in here, who
Thank you.
shared their comment. Oh no, we're all together here, right? Um, Brother Means, can I get you to do a closing prayer for this group? If you don't mind, I'm putting you, I'm putting you on the spot, my brother.
Absolutely. Almighty and eternal God, we thank you for these sisters and these brothers on this topic. Thank you from their perspectives and from the perspective of those who were not there. We pray that you would reveal all things to us so that we might be aware of our both history, our connection to our ancient ancestors, and to our future generations to come. We bless you and we thank you so much. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, everyone, I thank you
Amen.
all for being here, and do have a beautiful day. And this is being broadcast out to the group. So Sarah, you and I will talk about how do we heal video, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, everyone, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone. Good to see you so much. Good seeing all of you. Again, I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a convention, but I'm glad to be able to make the call.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.